Getting large-scale projects off the ground often means forging strong partnerships between the public and private sectors. Here to talk partnerships and the future of his city is the mayor of Atlanta, Andre Dickens. Mayor Dickens, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Bob.
First off, I know Atlanta's been going through some power outages because of tornadoes. Can you update us on the situation there?
Yeah, so the city of Atlanta is doing relatively okay. It's surrounding counties that really the tornado came from the west and came into the west side of Atlanta into some of our suburbs. So, Georgia Power, our power company, has been going around cutting down the trees that have broken down power lines and making sure that people get power restored. That recovery has been taking place over the past few days, and so now more and more residents have power. In the city of Atlanta, everybody has it right now.
It's a big discussion in Washington and across the country, across the globe, really, on climate change. What do we need to do? Because we're seeing more of these big weather events than we used to.
One, we have to admit that the world is warming up, that climate change is real, and that is something that we have to pay attention to, and we can't deny it any longer. Whether you're in a city that's like Atlanta or Birmingham or somewhere that's in that tornado possibility, or you're on the coast of Florida where you can see the beach erosion and that the shoreline is coming further and further into the community, and so it's all very real. So admitting that, but then the things we have to do are around making sure that we are climate sensitive in our actions around electric vehicles, around encouraging people to use transit, encouraging people to be, solarize their homes if they can, and so on and so forth. So that's why, I recently hired a chief sustainability officer. This officer is looking at everything inside the government and outside the government.
Is that a new position?
We had the position many years ago,
okay,
but now I brought that position back and restored it with a very talented individual that can lead that department to everything from green jobs to clean energy to making sure that we're sustainable in our practices.
We're here in Washington. It's obviously a very polarizing time. Not to say back in the 1990s when I came to Washington, everyone was singing Kumbaya, but it's gotten more polarizing. Can you explain how it's different with mayors now that you guys are in town and I'm sure exchanging stories of how you can help each other's cities?
Yeah, so mayors just got to get the job done.
Right.
The people see us each and every day. They don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican when it's talking about a pothole or right, it's talking about making sure that, your garbage is picked up on time. So mayors have the distinctive job of we are residents of our community that everyone lives in and that votes in. So they got access to you at the grocery store, here at your kids' school games or whatever. They're going to talk to you about real issues affecting their families. And so while, Washington definitely has the political lens to it and a partisan politics, we don't get into that until maybe election season when we're rooting for our favorite candidates. And I definitely have had my share of partisan scenarios right, and making sure that Reverend Raphael Warnock went back to the Senate and Ossoff as well as Biden. But outside of that, in the mayor's circle, most of us are just talking about, infrastructure, trying to make sure that we improve the city's infrastructure and make sure that it works for the future and for the now. We deal with public safety, crime, and making sure that things, violent crimes are down and that people are safe. And then also housing stability, affordable housing, and amenities around those communities so that people have a full life. So those things we just deal with and work on.
Now, you mentioned a lot of issues, a lot of problems across the country, and obviously politicians should be problem solvers. Yeah. You've been a leader in public-private partnerships. Can you explain the import of them and how they've grown over the years?
Yeah, this is important. Right now, I lead the U.S. Conference of Mayors P3 Task Force. I'm the chairman of that task force. P3 is a public-private partnership. And, I was a business leader in my past life before being mayor and in technology, and I'm an engineer. So I've been around public-private partnerships in the business community. So when I came into government, I'm looking at what makes sense and what works best. And so the first thing we did working with Tom Cochran and Mayor Mayor Suarez, that's the president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors, and Mayor Steve Benjamin, we talked about how with the American Rescue Plan Act and the Infrastructure Act, all these dollars that are coming out, to be able to help cities be able to, go pursue the funding, to be able to implement the change, to be able to get those dollars and to make to get them out of your hands and into the community as fast as possible. The typical RFP process may not work as well for every investment that you're trying to do. So what we thought was best is show all these cities, these city leaders, what capacity could be gained by having P3s. A lot of folks don't know, what is a P3? Right. How do you go about utilizing that? What would be the benefits of it? And so for us, there are some scenarios where a public-private partnership will deliver that project better, faster, cheaper, and that will benefit your citizens in real time so that you don't have these ongoing procurement challenges that sometimes you hear cities having a hard time getting dollars out of their hands. So we started with that last year. I started the first meeting. It was a huge success. A lot of mayors came out. We had mayors and business leaders all in the same room, as well as some federal partners who was like, yeah, we're handing out dollars from the United States Department of Transportation. We want to see those projects get implemented. And if you don't have the capacity in your city, how do you get it done? We're talking about P3s. And so we did a big survey at our midpoint this year, and 100 cities responded, some small, some large cities, and they all said, have they ever experienced a P3 before? Do they want to learn more? Can they see the benefits? And what are some of the projects they're looking at? And so, right. This week, while we're here, we're going to be talking about ways to implement P3s.
We held an event years ago with mayors, and they were basically screaming at Washington to say, we need to pass an infrastructure law. Yeah. It finally actually happened under President Biden. I was skeptical of it. I've been wrong a lot, and right sometimes. I was wrong on that. I didn't think it was going to get through. It got through. And you mentioned the implementation. How is that? Because the Washington meeting really focuses on a bill, and then it passes, and then we move on to the next thing. Right. But there's the implementation. How is that going? Yeah,
the implementation is where it actually all matters, right? So that can you see that road being paved? Can you see that bridge being repaired? Can you see those sidewalks going in and those the various utilities and infrastructure changes going on? And so for us, we're taking those dollars and applying them right now. And so you can go to the City of Atlanta. We have our website that shows the progress of our various infrastructure projects. And so you get them in your hands and you want to get them out of your hands as fast as possible so that you can be rewarded back by Washington. Right. So, they're elected officials that are in communities as well, whether that's the president or the secretaries, and they say, hey, we gave you guys resources that you asked for. How did you do? And do the citizens see the progress? And the answer is yes, particularly in affordable housing. We've utilized a lot of that money to help with homelessness that came about during COVID, as well as a lot of challenges people had with paying rent stabilization, and being able to help folks be able to just, maintain their lives as inflation has gone up. So, we're utilizing that right off the bat to be able to provide some things that the citizens have asked for years. And now we're, and I've only been in office a year and about three weeks. So as you get it, you try to get it out of your hands.
Sure. You mentioned affordable housing. How do you make that equitable? Because that's such a big issue. You mentioned COVID too. Can you talk about that? Because that has set so many communities back.
Yeah. So Atlanta is a victim of our own success. This city has been growing, and people keep coming to Atlanta. New businesses are coming there. Big technology companies. All the logos. As you drive down the city now, it is every major corporation is coming to Atlanta to take advantage of our talent that we have from all of our colleges, the Georgia Tech, Georgia State, the AU Center, Morehouse, Spelman, Clark. I mean, we have a lot of smart people in our city, Emory, and we have a lot of companies. Well, what happens is you have a lot of need for housing units. And so the housing stock just hasn't kept up with the demand of all the people that are coming to our city. And so what we've had to do, I set an aggressive goal of building 20,000 units of affordable housing in 8 years. We started last year with an aggressive calendar of getting these units planned, and some have even gone up and been, about 1,500 have already been people moved into them. So in the first year, so we're going to be on pace to hit that 20,000. And it's a vital need to be able to make sure that you have mixed income communities. We don't want concentration of poverty where it's all low income in one area and all high income in another area. You want the community to have the developments that you're doing to be mixed income, so that the janitor, the school teacher, and the principal can live in the same community and their kids go to the same school. The police officer and firefighter and the nurse and the teachers, a lot of times those folks are driving in for an hour before their shift starts. Well, that impacts their productivity, it impacts their quality of life, and that may show up on their job. So we want to make sure that those great frontline people, those first responders, those critical service folks, those hardworking people that provide a great service to us, that they're nearby and that they can benefit from the amenities that are in our city. And so we've been very aggressive about affordable housing development, and we're utilizing P3s for some of them. We just bought a big building, which was one of the tallest buildings in Atlanta. The city bought it, and now we're going to do a P3 to be a public-private partnership to be able to have a developer that will co-develop this with us so that we can have student housing, housing for our workforce, whether it's police, firefighters, and school teachers, as well as market rate housing for anybody that want to be in the penthouse level. And then we'll also have on the ground floor retail. All of that is coming about because of our intentionality around making sure people can live in our city, especially in our downtown.
Mayor Andre Dickens, I really appreciate you taking the time. I was going to ask you about the Braves and the Mets, but your Braves have had a better run than my Mets, so we didn't get to that one. But thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.